Oh wait, no, no. Can you hear my keyboard?
I hear you, keyboard, but it's fine. I can do post processing.
No, because I'm not trying to hear no goddamn typewriter in this
No, I'll
podcast.
fix it. I promise. So how's it going? Good morning. Assalamu
Good
alaikum.
morning. Hi, salam rahmatullah. I'm just chilling. How about you?
Pretty good. All right. Bismillah. What you got going over there? I see you're playing a game.
Oh, just a little deep, having some fun, casual flow while we do this podcast.
I hear you. Good times.
Was it bullets, boy?
So listen, I wanted to show you this article.
Yeah.
I don't know how to show it to you though. Here,
Can
I'll
you send the link through Zoom?
Yeah. This is I'll send it to you on the chat. This is an article by Justin Parrott. Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Brother Abu Amina Ilyas.
Mm-hmm.
He always drops, some nice Islamic reminders on Twitter. I like every one of them. And so he wrote this article. This is actually an old article, but I just came across it. It's from like 2013. And he emphasizes the ahadith, like he brings them all together, the ahadith about responsibility and hard work in Islam. And I just think it's so solid because, when you're going to like vote, right? And you're thinking about which candidate appeals to me the most. And as a Muslim, you should obviously pick the not even as a Muslim, just as a voter in general, you pick the candidate that most aligns with your values, right? And so if you just read this, it completely goes against the idea of socialism and providing for people. Because just look at what the Prophet ﷺ said. Just to scroll down just a tiny bit. So here's one. Let me zoom in a tiny bit. This font is ridiculously small. He says, Abu Hurairah reported that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لِأَنْ يَأْخُذَ أَحَدُكُمْ حبله فيحتطب على ظهره خير له من أن يأتي رجلا فيسأله أعطاه أو منعه. By him in whose hand is my soul, if one of you were to carry a bundle of firewood on his back and sell it, that would be better for him than begging a man who may or may not give him anything. And then he goes down, he drops this hadith. He says, اليد العليا خير من اليد السفلى واليد العليا المنفقة والسفلى السائلة. The upper hand is better than the lower hand, the upper hand being the one that gives and the lower hand being the one that receives. Because like back then their currency exchange was coins. So it was like, you stick your hand out.
So basically just saying
drops. Yeah, he's saying the one that gives is better than the one that receives. Like they're both good people.
Yeah.
But you should always strive to be the one that gives.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes on and he mentions the hadith about David, peace be upon him, Prophet David, وَلَا يَأْكُلُ إِلَّا مِنْ عَمَلِ يَدِهِ, that David would never eat except from the earnings of his own hands' work. And then he goes down to Zakaria, Kana Zakaria alayhi salam najjara, that Prophet Zechariah was a carpenter, peace be upon him. And then he talks about, there's a hadith about there's a narration by Aisha about the Prophet that someone asked him, what was he like? And she says, كان بشرا من البشر يفلي ثوبه ويحلب شاته ويخدم نفسه. The Prophet was a man among men. He would remove fleas from his own clothes, milk his sheep, and serve himself. Basically saying daily household chores, he would do it himself.
Yeah.
And then mentions the dua that the Prophet taught the Sahaba. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda wal-tuqa wal-afafa wal-ghina. Oh Allah, I ask you for guidance, righteousness, abstinence, or you could actually translate this as purity, because it's like purity from like sexual promiscuity, and independence or self-sufficiency, that a Muslim is supposed to be able to be someone that depends on himself. And there's a part where there's a hadith where they narrated that the Prophet said one time they saw that he would gather food for himself and he would keep food for at least a year. Like that's what he would save from his own provision. And one time a man came, obviously we know that the Sahaba like Umar and Abu Bakr, who, they're top dogs in Islam, they're big shots. They would give half their wealth and Abu Bakr gave all his wealth. But one time a man came to do that. He gave a huge portion of his wealth. And the Prophet said, keep your money. We don't need it. Keep your money. He said, keep your money, keep your dignity, because you give all your wealth and then you come asking for money to, as a beggar, you're going to lose your dignity. And one time during Umar's time, when he was the Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers, when he was going to Mecca, he went down to Mecca and he saw a group of people with nothing with them. You know what I mean? Like they had no carriage, no baggage, no nothing, right? And so he assumed that they were robbed by some highwaymen. So he came up to him to ask that. He said, ma hada, right? Like, what's going on? You guys good? And they go, oh, and they're all proud of themselves. They go to explain themselves to Haman. نحن القوم المتوكلون. We are the people who depend upon Allah alone. Like we came out here, we brought nothing, and look at that, subhanallah. We ask people for stuff and they provide. Who provides? Allah provides. We depend on none but Allah. And Allah looks at him and he goes, بل أنتم القوم المتواكلون. He says, like, you don't depend on Allah, you depend on others. This isn't depending on Allah. Depending on Allah is preparation, doing everything you need to do to be prepared for something, and then putting your faith in Allah that it goes well. Like you're going on a journey, you're going to Hajj, you get all your stuff together, you get all your bags, you get all the water, you get your water skin, you fill it up, you do whatever you got to do, and then you head out, putting your faith in Allah that everything will go smoothly. And if it doesn't, that's part of his plan. You don't go out with nothing except the clothes on your back and then just be like, yeah, Allah provides. He's got me. Like, what a bunch of stuff. What a bunch of goofballs, man. Like, seriously. And you have people like that all the time. There was a man that went up to Sheikh bin Uthaymeen. He goes, oh, Sheikh, I have a question. He goes, Fadlak. And he goes, I was praying in the musalla of the airport one time. And I had my belongings in front of me. And someone came and stole my belongings while I was in salah, but I didn't want to leave the salah because I was in the hands of Allah. And he said, Ya Rajul, anta mughaffal. He said, my man, you are an idiot.
Dang.
Or colloquially, you're a goofball.
You knucklehead.
Like, what are you doing? You're praying and someone's stealing your stuff. And he was asking, did I do the right thing? He's like, no, you're an idiot. Go grab your stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like, step out of salah. If you're in the masjid and the masjid's on fire, you're just going to keep praying. Like, no, I'm in God's hands. No, like, you be practical. Islam is a practical religion. But anyways, I just want to finish up this what he wrote here, because there's another part that I really liked. So a man walks up to the Prophet ﷺ, right? The Prophet ﷺ, not only is he a religious figure, the religious leader, but he's also the head of state, right? Like, so he represents the government in Medina. And so if someone had a hajj, if someone had a need, they would come up to him and ask him about it. So a man comes up and he says, let me switch back here. He goes up to him. So it's narrated by Anas ibn Malik that a man from the Ansar came to the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, and he begged from him. So the Prophet ﷺ asked, Ama fi baytika shay'un? Have you nothing in your house? He says, yes, a piece of cloth, a part of which we wear, and a part of which we spread on the ground, and a wooden bowl from which we drink water. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I'ti bihima. Bring them to me. So he brings those to him, and the Prophet ﷺ takes them in his hands, and he goes to the market. He says, Man yashtari hadain? Who will buy these? The man says, a person from the market, I will buy them for 1 coin. Then he asks twice or 3 times that Man yuridu ala dirhamin? Who will offer more than a coin? Another man says, I'll buy them for 2 coins. So the Prophet ﷺ sold those articles to him, took the 2 coins, and he gives them to the guy. And he says, Ishtari bi ahadihima ta'aman فانبذه إلى أهلك واشتري بالآخر قدوما فأتيني به. Buy food with one of them and hand it to your family, and then go buy an axe and bring it to me. So he brings the axe, it's the axe head. And the Prophet ﷺ fixes a handle to it with his own hands, and he says, اذهب فاحتطب وبيع ولا أرينك 15 يوما. Go gather firewood and sell it. Don't let me see your face for a fortnight. So 15 days, disappear. Don't let me see your face. The man goes away, gathers firewood, and sells it. When he earned 10 coins, he came to him and bought a garment with some of them and food with the others. And the Prophet ﷺ said, هذا خير لك من أن تجيء المسألة نكتة في وجهك يوم القيامة. إن المسألة لا تصلح إلا لثلاثة لذي فقر مدقع أو لذي غرم مفضع أو لذي دم موجع. This is better for you than that begging should come as a spot on your face on the day of judgment. Begging is right only for 3 people: for one who is in grinding poverty, or for one who is in severe debt, or for a painful compensation for killing. And I believe if I'm not mistaken, that the painful compensation for killing is like someone that's having to pay blood money, and it's a lot. Typically, blood money is not cheap. Like you killed someone unlawfully, but they decided because the law was the death penalty. But if they decided, the family of the deceased decided to forgive you, then they could ask for blood money, and so to pay that, then yeah, he could raise funds for it. And so he goes on. He says that begging without a valid excuse is a major sin in Islam. There's no blessing in the charity one receives from begging. Muawiyah reported that the Messenger of Allah said, لا تلحفوا في المسألة فوالله لا يسألني أحد منكم شيئا فتخرج له مسألته مني شيئا وأنا له كاره فيبارك له فيما أعطيته. Do not be persistent in begging. By Allah, if one of you asks me for something and I give it to him unwillingly, and there's no blessing in what I've given him. And there's another hadith of the Prophet someone kept begging him, and he knew that the man did not need what he was begging for. But he gave it to him, and as he's walking away, he says, and Umar hears him, that this man is taking with him fire from hell, meaning he's going to be punished for that. And he said, "O Prophet Allah, why would you give it to him?" And he said, because it is not befitting for me to deny someone what they ask for. Basically, as a prophet, when someone asks him for something, he should give it. Same thing when someone asks him a question, even though he doesn't want to answer the question, he has to tell him. You know, like for example, he has to tell the truth. Like when someone asked him one time, "Who do you love the most?" And the guy was expecting would be him. I think it was Amr ibn al-As.
Oh, I think I've heard this before.
Yeah, and so he was telling him, "No, it's Abu Bakr." And he goes, "Who else?" And he goes, "Umar." And he goes, "Who else?" And he goes, "Uthman." And so he was hoping it would be him. And the Prophet can't lie. He can't be like, "No, it's you."
Yeah,
because it's untrust, or it's like it's lying. So, there's another one, man. There's a great article, mashallah, by this brother.
this is actually a really good article. I haven't heard most of these, so this is really good to know.
Yeah. There's one down here, right? This is a really good one. So he goes, he shares this hadith down here that the Prophet ﷺ one time, he was with his companions, and Auf bin Malik reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said, ألا تبايعون رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم? Will you not give your pledge of allegiance to the Messenger of God? Someone said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, we've already given you our pledge. So what are we pledging to now?" The Prophet ﷺ said, أن تعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وتصلوا الصلوات الخمس وتسمعوا وتطيعوا ولا تسألوا الناس شيئا. He says that you worship Allah, you don't associate partners with him, you pray 5 times a day, you listen, you obey, and you don't ask anyone for anything. And the companions were so careful to obey this command that they wouldn't ask for help even in small matters. Auf bin Malik said, indeed, some of these people obeyed this to the extent that if his whip were to fall from his mount, he wouldn't ask anyone to hand it to him. So if he's on his camel and he drops his whip, which is way down, right? Because you're high up on a camel.
Mm-hmm.
He would get his camel to stoop down, get down from his mount, grab his whip, get back on, and then get back in the air again. He wouldn't say, "Hey, man, can you grab that whip real quick?" That's how closely they followed it. And so put aside questions of assisted living, of food stamps. Of course, we're not talking about people that definitely need it. Obviously, if someone really needs it, they would fall into the category of grinding poverty, like someone that's coming from a war-torn country or something like that, or someone that's disabled or elderly or sick. Those people, obviously, they can't make their own. But people that are able-bodied, you know what I mean? Dude, you're not following the sunnah. People that want free this, free that, that's not the sunnah. Sunnah is you take care of yourself. Sunnah is you figure it out yourself. Not the government comes and steps in to help you. Let me see if he's got any other goodies in here. Yeah. It's these are actually, some of these are similar, so they're slightly repeated.
So this is all from that one brother who's posting this stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's solid, man. It really is, because people think that we have this understanding that the government is rich and that the government needs to help me out. But dude, that's just not the mentality that they had. When the Muhajirun are the immigrants of Mecca, that when the Prophet ﷺ fled Mecca He went to Medina because the people of Medina accepted him. They called them the Ansar because they were the supporters of the Prophet ﷺ. And then a group of Sahaba that lived and were from Mecca left Mecca to go join the Prophet in Medina, right?
Mhm.
And they left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Like absolutely nothing. They went from rich to dirt poor. And so because of that, because of their need and their hajjah, the Prophet ﷺ paired them up, and he picked for everyone a friend. Like this guy, this muhajir becomes the friend of this Ansari. And so that's the Ansar started to, they helped the muhajirin so much that they're praised by the Prophet ﷺ, they're praised in Islam, they're praised by the Quran itself. And so there's a Sahabi, Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He was a man that came, well, that was one of the muhajirun, and he was completely broke too. And someone came to help him, and he's like, no, I don't need your help. I appreciate it, but I don't want that. Just tell me where the market is and which one is the most viable, most prosperous market. Which one do you think is the best market to buy and sell in? And so one of the Ansar said, yeah, it's this market. It's the one that the Jews of Medina are active in. And so he goes to that market. And Abdurrahman ended up dying one of the wealthiest people in Islam. He had so much wealth that after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, one time he comes back to Medina and he donates an entire caravan because he would trade with the people of Sham, the Levant, and then also in Persia. That was the Rihlat al-Shita'i was-Sayf. They would go all the way up to the Levant in the summer, and then they would go all the way down to Yemen in the winter, and they would trade between those regions.
Yeah.
And they were safe for like such a long time because of the blessings of being from Mecca, is that people thought that there was a miracle that protected them. And it was the reason why people believe that, because when you go on a caravan, there's no law on the road. You can get attacked, you can get pillaged, anyone could do anything. The only law is within your little city state.
Mm-hmm.
So the only people that were untouched though were the people of Quraysh. And the reason why is because of the story of the elephant, that when Abraha, when he came to attack Mecca to destroy the Kaaba,
Yeah.
so that he could build his church in Yemen and people could go to the church. After his army was like annihilated and he was killed himself, people thought that the people of Quraysh, you can't mess with them or else God's going to step in. And so they would go untouched. They would travel throughout, the peninsula untouched. And they would trade and they would become very wealthy. And so Abdurrahman ibn Auf, he would go and he would trade, and he had so much money that he donated one time an entire caravan, fi sabilillah, when he came back to Medina. So he's a very wealthy man. And so that's what you're supposed to do. That's the example that they set. They went and they completely started from nothing. And that's the Prophet says that's better in the sight of Allah on the day of judgment than for you to ask for people not knowing whether or not you'll get it, not knowing whether or not you'll receive it. So that's just something to keep in mind. You know what I mean? Like when you're voting and someone talks about, I'm going to make this free and I'm going to make that free and this is going to be free. It's like, okay, but do you really want that? Because what you're doing is by setting something to zero, by making something free, cost, like there's no cost attached. Well, nothing is really free. Someone's paying for it. So if you print, if you inflate the currency, you print money to pay for something like free college, for example. Well, someone's got to foot the bill. It's not going to be free. Someone's going to pay for it. So the government's going to step in and pay for it. But then what are they going to do to the currency? They're going to wreck the currency. They're going to make the currency cheaper. And so obviously as Muslims, we're not looking to apply Islam in a region that isn't Muslim. Obviously not. But when you look at things, when you look at the candidates, you're supposed to try to pick the one that not only upholds your rights as an American Muslim, but also the one that lines up the most with your values. And so one of the things we believe is that you don't interfere in the economy. One time the Prophet ﷺ was asked about price controls. Like, can you step in and regulate the market? And he said, no. He said, the prices are decided by Allah, and I don't want to meet him on the day of recompense and be responsible for the wealth and property of the Muslims. Basically saying, look, I'm not going to meet Allah with that, like saying I stopped the profits of one person. He says, Allah gives and Allah takes. He's the one that provides lavishly, and he's the one that takes from people. So if he provides for a person, I'm not going to bring his profits down. Profit is not haram. No one said you can't be wealthy. So And on that note, there's a person one time came up to the Prophet ﷺ with tattered clothing, like holes in his shirt. So he looks at him and he says, do you have wealth? The man says, yes. He says, what kind of wealth? He says, I have properties here. I have this. I have a pasture. I have this oasis. So he starts listing out all the stuff he has. He was like, oh, okay. Then let Allah see the grace and the mercy of his bounties upon you. Like, dress accordingly. Like, dress according to your wealth. You're a wealthy man. Go, like, wear something nice. It's not haram to wear something nice.
I feel like a lot of people would take that out of context as a reason to show off.
Well, it's according to the standard, like Sheikh Yusuf Qadawi says in his book, The Lawful and the Prohibited in Islam. He said, then you should dress according to the average standard of your people. If it's excessive for your people, you would know what's excessive for an American. Like, what's excessive?
Shirt,
Maybe
pants.
you could.
That's
Huh?
it. Shirt, pants, shoes.
No, that's not
Basic stuff.
excessive. No, he's
Oh, I
saying
thought
what
you
is
said
excessive?
acceptable.
No, yeah. So what is excessive in our society? I would say a suit with jewel cufflinks. You know, that's excessive, right?
Yeah. I mean, every
Uh,
day, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but a regular suit, nothing's wrong with that. If you're a wealthy person, you wear a suit. That's normal.
Yeah.
Even if it's a $500 suit or $1,000 suit, if you're wealthy, that is normal. So you're supposed to wear according to the wealthy. Having a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's excessive, though.
Well, I don't think it's excessive. It's according to the how much wealth you have. Like if you're worth 10 million plus and you drop $250,000 on a car, is that excessive to that person? No, it's totally normal.
What's the point of having that car if not to show off?
Well, it's he's buying a car that's to his level of wealth. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone has to have a $20,000 car. You know, like if someone is wealthy enough to afford something, then yeah, they can buy a Ferrari. Obviously, you shouldn't have 5 of them. That's excessive. You shouldn't have 5. What are you gonna do with 5 Lamborghinis? What are you gonna do with a Lamborghini, a Mercedes, a Rolls
There's no
Royce?
doubt that it's excessive if you have 5.
Yeah, but one, I'm thinking no. But I mean, and this could be up for debate. If it's according to your normal standard of living, then you could argue it's not too excessive. Obviously, you have to look at the situation though, and you know, see, but dressing accordingly, like, you should not. People think it's iffa, like it's piety that you dress very cheaply. You know, like, no one said that that's
Pious,
the
humble.
case. Yeah, like it's not
I thought we
pious.
were supposed to kind of not like overdo it, but sort of hide our wealth.
No. It says in Surah Al-Duha, wa bi ni'mati rabbika fahaddith. And from the blessings of your Lord, hadith, like, speak about it. Like, you should share how Allah has blessed you. Show how Allah has blessed you.
I can't argue with that.
No, like, it's not. It can become riyat if you do it in a certain way. It becomes a showing off. If you say this is not it, so it depends on how you say it. If you say this is from the mercy of Allah, you know, this is alhamdulillah by min fadlillah, from the grace of Allah. But if you start saying, nah, this is my hard work, this is what happens. You go work hard like I did, you'll get what, just like Qarun did, right? Qarun was the really wealthy relative of Musa, who ended up getting swallowed up by the earth, him and his entourage. And he was saying, this is from me. You know, this is from me, from my hard work. This is from how much effort I put in. And so riyat can become a problem there if it's, you know what I'm saying? You're showing off and you're saying, hey, it's from me. But if you're talking about someone, for example, like a royal member of a royal family, right? Like a prince, and he wants to buy a Mercedes. He wants to buy a Lamborghini. He's got billions. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't really blame him for that. That's not even, from his perspective, that's not even like buying that's like absolutely normal. Everyone he knows has a Lamborghini. So for him to buy one is totally normal. From his perspective, that's totally normal because he's extremely wealthy. So, yeah, it's not haram to be rich. Obviously, we have the taxation and whatnot. So, the zakat wealth tax. But what's definitely clear is that it's not from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to interfere in markets, to heavily tax people, even in situations of war. You know what I mean? Like one time there was a ghazwa, I can't remember which one. There was a fight that they were raising funds for. I think it was the Battle of the Ahzab, the Confederates, when they were coming in to surround them in Medina. The Prophet ﷺ was raising money to get camels and horses and weapons and armor. He didn't even implement a war tax like we had. We had a war tax in World War II. He didn't even do that. It was voluntary. He went into the street. He began asking who will donate for the cause of God, and then people just started, dropping money in his lap. I think it was Ahmed bin Affan that ended up dumping a whole sack of gold coins in his lap. Donated 100 red camels, and red camels are like one of the most expensive things you could own back then. So
it's like a new Lamborghini.
Yeah. So even back then, it was all voluntary. You don't go and forcibly tax people just because they're rich. It's not evil to be rich. Obviously, it's from the sunnah that you don't gather wealth and then just hide it. That's miserly. You don't just hoard money. That's a bad thing. And there's a hadith that say the person that hoards money is not from me. That you should take your money and spend it. Obviously not all of it. You need that nest egg to feed your family in case of drought or whatnot, or you have a bad harvest, because a lot of the onslaught were farmers at the time, and so you should have a little nest egg to take care of yourself in case you need it. But it's definitely not the case that we attack the rich in Islam, that the rich are bad people, that they can't have wealth, they can't be profitable. Yeah. Obviously there's a base tax that should be the 2.5% wealth tax that should be used for the people that can't provide for themselves, the disabled, the elderly, the wayfarer, the orphan. The wayfarer is like the traveler, the orphan, and I believe that's and a person that has a calamity befall him. So if someone, for example, like in our context, it would be like someone that had a car accident and he needs his car to get paid off. The state would step in to help him during that calamity. So, and then that would be taken from Beit al-Mal. But forced taxation, there's no evidence of that, except if it was something that like the wealth tax. But the scholars do say, someone was asked a scholar about, what do you think about taxes? Is it halal and semi? He says if it's a condition upon the people that they agreed to, like they voted it into law, then yeah, you could say it's okay. So, any thoughts?
That I could think of, Jimmy. I think it's pretty interesting.
How would you describe yourself in terms of economics? Are you socialist?
I'm broke.
No, but what do you think appeals to you in terms of the economic system?
What do you mean?
Well, there's like typically there's candidates that are socialist, and then there's candidates that are capitalist. And the person that's socialist is the one that's saying, I'm going to make this free. I'm going to make this free. Bernie Sanders, AOC. And then there's candidates that are like, they're more Republican or libertarian, that are like, no, we should provide people the means for them to provide for themselves. Obviously, the economics factor is not the only thing that plays into when you pick a candidate, right? There's obviously other things that you take into account, like, does this person hate me or not? It doesn't matter to me if your economic system aligns with what I believe the economic system should be. If you hate my guts just because I'm Muslim, I'm probably not going to vote for you.
Yeah, there's too many other factors in play. Yeah. But realistically, I would like for it to be a mix of both. Give some to the people that need it, and then don't give too much. Otherwise, people are just going to get lazy and take advantage of you, which happens regardless of the point of whether you're giving anything out or not. If you give anything, there will be people that will take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, like what happened recently with the labor shortage. Like McDonald's, literally, yeah, like McDonald's, Wendy's, because of what is that, the weekly stipend that they're giving to people that are unemployed.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's just quitting. Yeah, there's a literal labor shortage in the market because they can't convince people to come back to work. Why would they? they can make the same amount staying home or slightly less, but it's free.
Yeah.
And so Amazon recently came out and raised everyone's wages. I think they made it $25 an hour.
Now hold up. $25.
Let me see. Amazon wage increase.
Are you talking about like the basic factory worker at Amazon?
Yeah, no, it said they hiked it to $18 an hour, and they're doing this thing where they can pay for your college. So this is because Amazon is expanding and they're trying to convince people to, sign up for Amazon en masse, and the best way to do that is to convince them with better wages.
That's definitely convincing.
Yeah. So that's what's happening at Amazon.
Better pay. Yeah, I can't complain with that.
Yep. Yo, I was listening to the first episode, and I felt like I was talking too fast. Am I talking fast? How do you think I'm slow, fast?
No. I think you're good. You might be talking too fast, but not live while I'm listening to it. It doesn't sound too fast.
Okay.
I will say right now,
yeah,
you can cut this part too.
No, let's leave it.
No. All right. Segue into the outro.
What's that?
Yeah, an outro?
Yeah.
That's the end of the episode.
Oh, you tired again?
No,
Man, you
it's
get tired.
No. We've been talking for like 30, 40 minutes. I think that's a long enough podcast.
I was trying to hit the hour mark. What are we at now?
I don't know, like 40 minutes?
I think so, yeah. Do we start at 8 a.m.? It's 8:40.
So. Mm-hmm.
All right. What kind of topic should we touch on before closing?
You son of a gun. We need to go to Charleston, boy.
Oh, you want? Okay, you want to close now? You trying to go crabbing?
Yeah. Well, not crabbing. The other thing.
Oh, the archery.
Yeah.
The axe throw. Oh yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video on that. My God, it was wild. This girl throws the axe, and it bounces back and flies over her head. You saw that?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, son.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been.
That's terrifying.
That would have been a violent video, dude.
Actually, all this stuff that you're bringing up was surprisingly new knowledge to me, and it's actually very good to read about it and hear it.
Yeah, for sure. No, dude, all of his website is amazing. Like even if you just pull it up in the morning before starting work and you just read one page, it's solid, mashallah. This brother put in the work.
Yeah, I like this. Abu Millionaires. Let me see.
His name is Justin Parrott on Twitter.
He's got a whole bunch of stuff. Check him out. Abu Millionaires.
No, Amina Ilyas.
Abu Amina Ilyas.com. Check him out. He's pretty good. Twitter, Facebook. Yeah. Let's check out his Twitter. Wait, I thought you said his name was Justin Parrott. Okay, never mind.
Oh, that's cool. You got the screen on the side.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I like it. No people gather. Remember all things.
It's a little fuzzy for me. Like I can't make out what it says, but maybe on the playback it'll be better.
Looks like it's actually cut out just a tad. Let me. Oh, there we go, Jimmy. Pizza Perfecto.
By the way, I was talking to just a fun fact we can close out with while you're playing deep. I was asking a chef about this, about hey, how come there's so much involvement of the government? By the way, do I sound good? I don't know if my mic is too. Sometimes I turn my face when I'm talking.
You sound good.
Okay. There was I was asking about a question like how come there's so much government involvement nowadays and what the ulama have to say. Like for example, Jamiat al-Azhar, the bastion of scholarship of Islamic scholarship in Egypt. That was actually, by the way, that was founded by Ubaydullah al-Fatimi, the Fatimi Shia state, as it was going to be the Islamic university for propagating Shia belief, but ended up being converted back to Sunnism or to Sunnism from when Salah ad-Din took over. But I was asking him about there's so much government involvement and pressure on ulama nowadays. I'm sure it existed in the past too. Obviously it did, because they arrested, I think it was Imam Ahmed, who was arrested and thrown in prison and tortured for his belief on I think it was the creation of the Quran. There was a little fitna there. But anyway, so I was asking him about how there's so much government involvement in the ulama today and their fatwa. I was like, why is that the case? And so he talks about the system of the waqf, the awqaf. The historically, who provided for the scholars? It wasn't the state. It was endowments. Like they would set up an endowment, which was the historical precedent to today's trusts. When you set up a trust and you put money in it for your kids or something.
Yeah.
The historical, the one that they had in the Muslim world was the waqf. And they'd put money in it. And a person, like, he would be retiring, like, I donate all this money fi sabilillah to this masjid. And that masjid would then take the money, put it in this bank account, and they would take a little from it every month to pay for the salaries of the scholars and their students and the masjid upkeep, right? Right. So it was all over the place. The awqaf system was all over the Muslim world, and the scholars had no pressure from the governments. Like they weren't being provided by the government. But after colonialism, post-colonialism, the awqaf system was dismantled, and so now, who runs Al-Azhar? The Egyptian government. So when their ulama, when their scholars walk up on the pulpit for Jummah, and they start saying some wild stuff, man, wild stuff, like Dr. Ali Goma, man walks up, and this is like I think it was 2013. This was right around the Egyptian Revolution. Man walks up on the pulpit and goes, "Idrib fil milyan," like kill them all.
Oh,
yeah, you know what he's talking about?
No, what is he talking about?
He was given a sermon to the soldiers in the Egyptian army, saying, "Kill the protesters." And then he says, "Tuba liman qatalahum aw qataluh." Then glad tidings or blessed are the ones that kill them or are killed by them.
He just made that up on the spot.
Dude, he was literally just fabricating. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And he denies it.
That's like a pretty bold claim too. Like, go ahead, kill them all. Just annihilate them, destroy them.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what they do nowadays. They got these, in Arabic, there's a phrase they call them as ulama as-salatin, the scholars of the sultans, because they are mouthpieces for people in power. They just do what they want them. They say what they want them to say. That's it. They have no backbone. They have no charisma. They have no courage. Some of them do, right? Some of them actually do. And those guys, they get locked up, man. They get locked up in the thousands, and so people mistake the ones that are locked up, some of them, for being extreme terrorists. Some of them probably are, right? Some of them probably are terrorists, right? But that's not the case with a lot of them. A lot of them are just moderate Muslim scholars that oppose the state. Like in Saudi Arabia, dude, they threw Sheikh Salman Auda in prison. And all he did, huh?
For what?
So just a little background on Sheikh Salman Auda. He's mashallah, he's very moderate. You know what I mean? He gives very temperate views on Islamic topics, and he makes decisions and things that kind of go against the masses. And one of the things he said was that we need a referendum. And so this is pre King Salman and Mohammed bin Salman. That we need a referendum on establishing the rights of the people, just something like a Bill of Rights. You know what I mean? Like, let's just talk about the rights of the people so that we don't trample their rights whenever we get upset.
Okay.
And King Salman was receptive to that because at the time he was a prince. The king was King Abdullah, right? And he said, but I can't do anything about it. I got to wait till I get to power. He gets to power and nothing happens. As a matter of fact, he puts his son, he gives him like control. And then after he gives Muhammad Salman control, they come after him. There's a situation where they decided to blockade Qatar. Sheikh Salman Auda he posts this tweet on Twitter saying, you know, Allahumma alif bayna qulub al-muslimin waslih bainahum, that may Allah bring together the hearts of the Muslims and correct their situation, rectify their situation. The next day he's put in prison.
Just for saying that?
Just for saying that. So that's
Are
the
you
thing
serious?
is that, yeah, some of these guys are getting locked up and they actually have the courage to say stuff, you know, to go and correct, because it's from the tradition that you, sorry, hold on. Arthur's messing with my wires. So it's from the tradition, the Islamic tradition, that when the Sultan screws up, when the person in charge screws up, you go and correct his behavior, you know, non-violent, you know, how do you say? Basically, you correct their behavior, but not in a violent way. You go and you tell, like, and if you just look at the tradition, like Umar ibn Khattab one time, he gets up to give the khutbah. He goes, "Ya ayyuhan nas isma'u wa ati'u." Oh, people, listen and obey. Someone gets up from the audience. "La sam'an wa la ta'an ya amir al-mu'minin." He goes, "No, we will never listen. We will never obey, O leader of the believers." Like, he's mad. He's like, "Whoa, what's up? What's going on? You good?" And he goes, "How come everyone was given one garment, but you were given two?" So there was a piece of land that had sheep that was owned by the government, the state. And they went and they sheared the wool of the sheep and they made from them garments and they gave it out to the people. Omar gets up to give the khutbah and he was a very tall man, like very tall. And he was so tall that they said that when he got on a horse, his feet would almost drag on the ground.
Wow.
And so if he got one garment of wool, it wouldn't cover his body. So he was wearing two. And he goes, "Oh, that thing." You know what I mean? He's like, "You're mad about that. Explain to them, Abdullah." So he tells Abdullah to stand up. Abdullah is his son. And Abdullah says, Abdullah bin Umar, Allah be pleased with him, says, "I gave my father my share of wool." So look at the situation. Like, this dude was mad about a garment of wool. And then Umar explained to him. He's like, "No, I got you. Let me explain. It was my son's. I took it. Now I have two. You know what I mean? I didn't take more than I should have taken. It was a piece of wool.
Yeah.
It was a shirt." And it just look at that, compare that with people that speak up, like especially in Saudi Arabia, that speak up against the state. Those people literally disappear, man. Straight up disappear. That kid, Omar bin Abdul Aziz, that kid that he's living in Canada right now, dude. He posts stuff on Twitter all the time, you know, against Saudi Arabia and whatnot, and spoke. He was with Jamal Khashoggi. They had this thing going, alayhi before he passed. And dude, he is in fear of his life right now. He's like in hiding. Anyone that speaks up against Saudi can disappear. They will, even outside of Saudi, they'll come and they'll find you. They'll toss you into the back of their car and then take you back to Saudi. And so Saudi Arabia actually sent 2 agents to go talk to him. And so this kid already talks about it. He's like, "Yeah, they were very cordial. They're very nice. And they come to talk to me and they're like, we want you to know that Mohammed bin Salman says, whenever you wish to come back to Saudi Arabia, anta fi aman, anta fi wajhina." It's like a Najdi phrase that means you're under our protection. Like, don't worry. The crown prince himself said that you're protected. And if you need any dam, if you need any money, we got you. Because we know anta lasta amilan li'a'da' ad-dawla. We know that you're not working with enemies of the state. We know that you are trying to better society, and we want you to know that if you come back, you will be protected. They're lying straight through their teeth, boy. They arrested his friends. They arrested his brothers because he's from a big family. All these kids, their lives are ruined just because they knew Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Because they're trying to put pressure on him to get him to come back. They arrested his friends. They send him audio messages on WhatsApp, and he was playing them on this video of people crying, like, "Please come back. Please, your mom is crying. Please come back." And all this pressure is mounting on him to get him to come back. But he knows if I go back, the rest of my life is in prison. If they can arrest Sheikh Salman Oda, imagine what they do to this kid. And Sheikh Salman Oda had a lot of prestige, you know. Even Jamal Khashoggi, dude, that guy was really well known. He was like, especially in Saudi Arabia, he had best friends in the government, you know. He was a big shot, and then they just kill him. But yeah, we could wrap up here if you want. I gotta let the cat out. So subhanak wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Any closing words? Any closing thoughts?
Not that I could think of.
All right, let's see what the audio playback is like because I can't. What the hell is? I keep going off mic. So, all right, I'm gonna hit end. Okay.
Okay.